Exactly. Hey, everybody, boys and girls, marketers, non-marketers, and everybody who has a small business. Welcome to the Marketing Happy Hour. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of our agency, Maximize Your Media, where we take care of Pinterest and a whole bunch of other social media posting like Facebook and others, as well as do some SEO magic that helps you to get more revenue. And with me today, as always, is
John Paduchak. Hey, everybody. Videos Are Social is our digital agency. We're a family.
I forgot to share this to that.
Our little family digital agency, just like yours.
You're ahead of the curve.
I know, and that's our digital agency, and we do a lot of similar stuff to you, except we also specialize in video and live video, on top of social posting and just general business consulting.
It's the post with the most. Yeah. With us when he gets his drink is Ed Winslow. Yeah, you can't hear things going on there.
And I don't like to drink alone, so it's important.
You don't like to drink alone. Let me see what I can do here. I'm going to look for. It is a program. I could mute him. I'm going to mute him right now.
For a second.
There, I just successfully muted Ed.
There you go.
The beauty of live video, you can mute, unmute.
Ed Winslow is our special guest.
He's very special. He's I think of him as a display advertising ninja. Who's a savant, not the idiot savant. He's very intelligent.
Very, 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 yes.
But he is going to grace us with his presence, and we're just going to have a wide-ranging discussion about advertising and what the best places are to put your advertising dollars and to avoid wasting your money on ads that don't work. There's a lot of ads that don't work.
Well, and people look at advertising in such a funny way because they think that just because they're advertising, they have to spend a ton of money to get going, and it's so untrue. So we're going to bust some myths today about advertising online.
Bust a miss and bust a move. I
was looking for Ed. Here he comes.
But he's not here yet, so
I feel a lot better.
Oh, there he is. Now I can unmute him.
We had to mute it for a second. But
welcome. John referred you to as a savant in digital advertising.
Savant of digital advertising.
But not an idiot savant. That's the
not that. No, I would never say that.
Yeah. So I have a Cape Codder.
Awesome.
Oh wow. Is that vodka and cranberry juice, or what is that?
Vodka, cranberry, a little tonic, and a lime.
A little tonic.
Yeah, this is my second one of the day, actually.
Oh.
I just
first
got
one
back
for breakfast.
I like it.
I went over to my Friday afternoons. I go over to my Italian market, and they have
nice.
I get dinner for Friday night. They have all kinds of prepared stuff, and they, whenever I'm there, they get me an espresso with a little Sambuca thrown in.
Oh wow! I was wondering if they liquor you up before you purchase.
While I'm purchasing, yes.
Oh, okay, while you're purchasing, just to see if you order more.
Well, yes, it helps. It helps.
It does help.
It's good for their business. It's they've got me in their sales funnel, and they've got the upsells all over the place.
Oh, geez, I'm telling you, we got a nice little Italian market like that here too. I don't. I really should.
I've been going to this place for years, and they have today. They have this really awesome lemon chicken.
Ooh. And
lemon chicken and shrimp scampi, and I got 2 Caesar salads, and I got some vanilla and chocolate with sea salt caramel gelato.
Sounds great. I'm coming to your house.
Come on down. We got plenty.
3.5 hours away.
Well, we got a last minute while I was over there. They only allow 4 people in at the place at a time, so I had to wait outside. While I was waiting outside, I got a call from my son Jordy, and he and his fiance and his French bulldog are coming up for dinner.
Oh, I thought the bulldog was yours. It's
Jordy. No, that's Jordy's.
Frank.
No, that's Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frank's coming up to visit. Yeah.
All this time I thought Ed got a pet and it's his son's. Oh well, it's cool. It's in the family. It's all good.
It's all in the family. There's no Archie Bunker though. Hey, I may have to leave you gentlemen briefly, only because my wife is trying to do some social posting and we're having a major bandwidth issue here. So I will rejoin you a little later. But I just introduced you as or John introduced you as the savant of advertising. And I was thinking we were going to talk a little bit about but Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and your specialty, which is display ads in wonderful high traffic places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured we'd talk a little bit about the gamut today.
Okay, I will exit just for now to make sure that nothing is going wild both in the Zoom school and the Instagram world.
Cool. Well,
I'll see you in a bit.
We'll see you.
All
Right.
right. We'll see on for.
I'll be back.
The second.
I'll go to LTE on my phone so I don't screw things up for her.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. See you.
All right. There we go.
Hey, John.
Nice. So here we are back again, Ed. Ed and I do this every afternoon on Fridays in our group, which is the social marketing. Our group, local marketing strategies.
Local marketing strategies. Yeah.
Got so many things going on in my brain, and that's our group on Facebook. If you're into local marketing and trying to move your business forward, come check us out over there. Local marketing strategies. So here we are, Ed. Man, we were talking about advertising today. And just the fact that, I was saying to Dr. V before you came on, so many folks just think that advertising online for their business needs to cost a fortune. And you can really get started in a lot of the advertising for as little as $5 or $10 a day doing Facebook ads and YouTube ads, and kind of move your way up as things get progressing. And there's so many different places that you can do that. So that's what we're talking about today, getting started with ads.
Well, I think a lot of, it all has, it really is the strategy is the key to the whole thing, and understand how these different channels can work for you, as a business owner. And there's, as marketers, we're implementing a lot of strategies, and, sometimes we discover things that are not so obvious, that are out of the ordinary advertising realm.
Very much so.
And one of the things that I have seen with display ads, which has been really interesting. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
Little story. I mean, I love telling a couple of these stories that are, that really sort of, tell how these things work. But, when I first started doing display ads, this was about 3 or 4 years ago. And I think I've told you the story, John, but this was for a limo and private jet charter business down in Stamford, Connecticut.
Right.
And when I analyzed their marketplace, it was very, very competitive for them to get the results. Like, even if they got, the top results, even if you rank number one for like limos, in Stamford, which is how somebody's going to search, there might be some deeper niche searches, but it's going to be more like limos for rent or some variation of that.
And in the community. Yeah.
Their competitors, it's not, I don't think it's really, that market is not like a really deep niche, type of strategy, like some other businesses. It's more like going to the yellow pages strategy. Mm-hmm. And so, when I looked at analyzed their competitors, because I live in Wilton, Connecticut. I'm not far from Stamford. Stamford's about 150,000 people. You have a lot of companies, a lot of corporations down there.
Yeah.
And during the day, it fills up even more than 150,000 people because people commute into the area. And it's also the headquarters for like the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. And so when I went in to meet with the owner of this company, I told him, I said, it's, the SEO part that you're thinking about, it's going to be really, really expensive. It's going to be really hard to rank. Pay-per-click is not going to be cheap. And I said, I gave him a price, and it was like way out of sight for what he wanted to spend. And I said, well, let me try some different angles, because he wanted to do something. And so I said, I'm going to also create these display ads while I'm getting everything going to try and figure out what the best angles are for your business. So he said that he was like, okay, that's good. Mm-hmm. So launched the, he let me put a call tracking phone number on the site, and we launched the display ads, and we were just targeting, a very tight market, really just the Stanford, maybe Darien, maybe Greenwich, Connecticut, which is, good market. And so we're running the campaign, and about 3 weeks into the display ad campaign, all of a sudden I see the traffic on their website start to escalate like a hockey stick.
Yeah, right.
The call volume you could see was going up. It was on pace for like 60 calls a month. And then once the ad started to kick in, it started to rise. And within 2 months, he was at, I don't remember exactly, but it was, let's say, 150 calls a month.
Right.
And so I went in to meet with him at the end of, we started the campaign like December 1st. At the end of January, I went in to meet with him and his team. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a great meeting. And I went in and I sat down with him, and I showed him the chart, and I showed him the results on the calls. And he said, well, that's fine, Ed. I appreciate what you're saying, but the ads are not working. I'm like, well, what do you mean they're not working? I mean, they're clearly working. No, they're not working because all the people that are calling us are existing clients. And he said, I'm not paying you to get me business from my existing clients. I want new clients. And I was really like sort of shocked. I was like, sort of depressed.
Yeah, I'd rather have clients coming back.
So, he was willing to give it a shot for 6 months. So I said, okay, well, if that's what you're telling me, then I'm going to stop running these display ads, and I'm going to go back to what you really, I'm going to go back to the SEO.
Right.
Which I knew I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to get anywhere with the SEO. I didn't know what to do. I was trying to figure out how can I generate leads for him? Could I rank some videos? What do I do?
Right.
So at the end of 30, and I go back, let's see, now we're back into the end of February. And I go in and meet with him again. And I said, look, here's what's happened. You can see clearly when we started 3 weeks in, the call volume went up, the traffic to the site went up. At the end, when you told me that it wasn't working, I turned everything off, and you can see the traffic and the calls dropped immediately back to what they were before.
Right.
And I said, so I'm really not finding any other ways to generate leads in the short term. SEO is going to take some time. And so he still wasn't getting it on the display ads. And he said, look, I was willing to give you a shot for 6 months. He said, I've heard the same thing from, I've had other marketers come in here. I've never gotten anything out of any marketing that any marketer's ever done for us. So I went back and I said, you know what? I'm going to lose this client. And just for my own sake, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put money back into the display ads. I want to see what really the story is. So I put more money back into the display ads, and the same exact thing happened. Traffic to the website went up. His phone calls increased dramatically again. And I was listening to the calls because I had the call recording, call tracking number, and it had a recorder on it. And I was listening to the calls, and all the calls that are coming in are people calling in saying, I want to book an appointment for a limo or whatever they needed. There was some really good business coming in.
Yeah, so people really interested in booking some business.
Definitely, no doubt about it. So run the campaign for another 2 months. And now we're going into, now I've been doing this now for, let's say, 5 months.
Yeah.
Going into the last month. So I went back to meet with him. And, I went in and I said, look, you can see exactly what's happening. And he said the same thing again. He said, I understand what you're saying, Ed, but these are my clients. I don't need you to generate business from my clients. And so I knew that I was, the account was done. And on the way out the door, I said to one of his employees, I said, let me ask you, I said, is it possible that your clients use other vendors as well?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the woman said to me, she said, well, actually, we do a lot of business with the WWF wrestlers. And what happens is we get calls from them, from the wrestlers, to confirm appointments. And they mistake us for one of our competitors. So they book the limo to get to JFK Airport or wherever.
Yeah.
And they think they set it up with us, but they set it up with one of our competitors. And I said, exactly. Okay, there's the answer. That's what's going on.
Yep.
And so what's happening is because these display ads are in front of their exact audience over and over and over, they're getting more business from their existing clientele. It's also generating more word of mouth business.
Yeah.
And then we also found that people were actually in the back end of the website. They have like a rate sheet or something like that. And we found we found Cantor Fitzgerald. Somebody from Cantor Fitzgerald went onto their site, filled out their form to get this download, and nobody at the company ever called them back.
Huh.
Cantor Fitzgerald was, what I know about Cantor Fitzgerald is the chairman owns an apartment on Fifth Avenue in New York City that he paid $60 million for. So they're a big deal company.
Big deal company. Yep.
So what happened was, what was really interesting is this client didn't really understand what was really happening. They didn't understand the strategy. They didn't understand the long-term thing, that if you're out in front of your target audience over and over and over and over, and you don't stop, you're going to get more business from your existing clientele, and this is a really important part. If you are communicating with your existing clients, who is the cheapest form of new business, you're going to get more word of mouth. They're going to tell everybody else, and you've cultivated that crowd, and you're going to pull them away from your competitors. And I see that happen all the time. Dentists, same thing.
Yep.
Dentists, their patients are now, instead of thinking about their dentist once a year, and you go to the dentist, you don't think about your dentist for another year. Now the dentist is in front of you all the time on a regular basis. Let's say it's once a week or a couple times a month.
Sure.
But they're in front of you. And I see that same thing happening over and over. Like I have another dentist client, and I was listening to some of the calls the other day. And I could hear people saying, hey, I haven't been to the dentist in quite a while. I need to come in. And I'm like, that's exactly what's going on, is that people are seeing the ads. They haven't been to the dentist in 2 years. They know they got to go. Finally, they see an ad. It's like, you know what? I got to go to the dentist. And that is a very unique phenomenon that it's a hard thing to explain to a client. But, it really comes back to what we've been talking about in our other group in the local marketing strategies, is that you have to implement your strategy. You have to find that target audience, and you stay in front of them over and over and over. And I don't care whether it's display ads or it's SEO or Facebook, it's the same concept over and over.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up the truck just a little bit, because we're going through and we're talking about a lot of terms that people might not be familiar with. So display advertising, as Ed mentioned, is when we see ads that appear in places like Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, those kinds of places. And they're just these little contextual picture or video ads that pop up in those places for different companies that we're advertising. So that's one of the things that we've been talking about here. And then the other thing I'd mentioned was SEO, that's search engine optimization. It's improving the content on your website so that it shows up higher in the search engines. And, so those are a couple things that we've been talking about so far. And, advertising is a great way to start to get in front of people, but there's so many different kinds of advertising that most people just have no idea where to get started. Display advertising is one of those advertisings that most people don't usually start with display advertising. They usually kind of start with Facebook or maybe YouTube ads, but display advertising is very inexpensive to do compared to a lot of the others, and very effective. Seeing your advertising in a place like the Wall Street Journal or Forbes, it's almost like you kind of get the credibility of that newspaper or where you're being seen as well, which is another huge thing about it. So I just want to kind of fill in the blanks for people that might not know as much about advertising as you and I do. Use some terms that they might not be familiar with.
Well, what the thing with like display ads is that you can like when we were doing the ads for the limo company or the dentist, like let's say Stamford, Connecticut, and we get on Fox News or we get on the weather.com
Right. That's
and
another one.
it could be many other, there are thousands of these different sites that you can get on. You're only being seen by the people that you target in a local market. So you can set up your ads so that your ads are just getting in front of a certain audience. It could be male, female, it could be income, could be specific interests, because you're going after more, if you're going after the limo jet market, you can set up your targeting with these ads.
Yeah.
So that you're getting in front of a high-end audience. And there's all this data
It's
that
tons
these
of data.
companies, the data that, they know everything about us. They know what websites we track. We know what, they know what our interests are. They know what we communicate, where we communicate, where we travel online.
Yep. They know where you are when you're out on your phone. I mean, I get these ads now all the time from different places saying, hey, we see, like, especially Facebook, if I've got it open on my phone, oh, hey, we see you're in front of the pet store or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
Or the other thing they ran not too long ago, you can do this advertising for specific places. So like they ran an ad not too long ago. I think, I'm trying to remember which way it went. It was people going to McDonald's and asking for a Whopper. Remember that? They ran some kind of an ad, Burger King did, and it was very localized. And they got people going to McDonald's asking for a Whopper or something like that. It was one of those things. So we can do very localized advertising, even to just very specific streets, to a specific neighborhood. There's so many ways that we can narrow it down, and it's really quite amazing that we can do that. We can narrow it to a particular audience, people that like a particular magazine or a particular star or celebrity. There's just so many ways that we can narrow down the ads that we send out these days, and it makes it super effective.
Well, it is sort of scary.
It is scary. And then you get those ads where, you went to Amazon today or you said something, and all of a sudden you start seeing these things on your phone, or Alexa starts talking to you about, hey, you're going to buy a this or a that. And, we start getting targeted, and that's the retargeting side of advertising, where the ads start to then follow us around based on our, they know we've got an interest because we clicked on something. And then that's how they're able to follow us around.
What's really pretty wild is that with the display ads, you can target, like, let's say you're a Wendy's.
Mm-hmm.
You can target like the local McDonald's, and anybody that's got their phone open.
Yeah.
You can target them, so that they've gone to McDonald's
and offer them
you can start showing them ads for your Wendy's.
Yeah.
If you're a Home Depot and people are going into the competing Lowe's, you can target the people that are going into the Lowe's and start showing them your ads.
Yep.
Now,
narrowed it down.
The other thing that I don't know if I have access to this yet, but the capability now exists that when people go into like a Home Depot and they have their phone on, there's there's like a mobile phone ID.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually you can run a campaign that tracks the people that went into Home Depot during the last year.
Right.
And so now you can start getting your ads going forward based on people who were there in the last year. You don't have to just start from ground zero and just advertise moving forward. You can go back in time and then advertise to those people. So
that's pretty wild, isn't it?
It's insane. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. People that believe in conspiracy theories would think the government tracks us so thoroughly. In reality, it's Facebook and Google and everybody else.
It's these big. It's called big data. I mean, if you look at my daughter is getting married, and I shouldn't announce this yet, but her boyfriend works for Wayfair.
Yeah.
And he studies data science. He's into data science.
Yeah.
And that is where you can go on a nationwide basis, and you can see who's buying the pink couches.
Right.
You can really start targeting local markets based on, you could find out which couch does better in what area, and you can get it down into, you know what I mean? They're getting it down into such specific, deep
Very
target.
specific, right?
So now you can take that data and you can figure out what time of year, when people are buying, what time of day they're online. It's pretty wild.
It is pretty wild, pretty scary, and pretty wild. But so those of you that feel kind of freaked out by being chased around, this is what's going on. But the thing that's good about it is a lot of times it's a great reminder. I mean, I know times that I've gone and I went to pick something up and forgot about it. And then next thing I know, I see the ad about it. And I go, oh, I forgot to buy that. And so sometimes it is a great reminder, though. So, I mean, there's some positives and some negatives. But it's great for those of us in business because it's a great way to stay in front of our existing clients. And those of us that are in business know it's a lot easier to get more repeat business from an existing client than it is to get business from a new client.
Right.
And really, who cares where the business comes from? As long as, at the end of the day, we end up with a net profit. We don't really care if it's an existing client or a new one,
You think about it like an insurance agency, for example, like, like I never think about my insurance agency. I mean, I never call them. And, but if I started seeing ads, like my display ads, and let's say one ad talked about home insurance, then the next one talks about jewelry insurance, and then one after that is like, I don't know, whatever, cyber insurance or error and omission insurance. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to get some error and omission insurance, or I could use some cyber insurance, or you know what? I just talked to, a friend of mine who needs cyber insurance, and I just saw my insurance agency's ad on cyber insurance, and like it's totally out of my mind until I saw the ad, and now I've seen the ad, and it's like, hey, it could be like, hey, John, you know what? You mentioned something about cyber insurance. I saw my agency is, they've got a cyber insurance program. You should give them a call. That's how it works. The problem is that for a lot of companies, when the business comes in, they don't understand that the business came in from me, who was maybe their client, who told you about the cyber insurance.
Because I saw the ad, it reminded me.
But they think that you just happen to call them.
Yeah.
You didn't call up and say, hey, by the way, my friend Ed saw your ad and he told me about your cyber insurance.
Right.
You might even forget that I even told you.
Yeah.
Right. But you happen to show up at their door and now you buy your cyber insurance from them. And then maybe you tell 10 other people and it's like, oh boy, things are going great. We're getting all this cyber insurance. Isn't that amazing? Well, it came from that ad.
Right. Yep.
But as soon as you turn the ad off, no more of that business comes in. It's like, oh gosh, it's really odd that we got all that cyber insurance and now we're not getting it anymore.
Yeah, and it's really the same as just seeing something. Like we were working on improving our accounting this year, and I ran into a package, and it's funny. Dr. V had mentioned to me, "Oh yeah, I want to do kind of the same thing. I'm really looking to brush things up and improve our tracking, everything that we do here." And so I found a package that worked out great, and I told them about it. And the same is really true for the retargeting. We see your ad, and then, but then all of a sudden you're in front of our nose again or in front of our face. And we mentioned you to a friend of ours that's looking for the same thing, or they just thought of it. And then we just thought of you because of the ad. Maybe not just because we thought of you, but the ad reminded us that you still exist. And so that's an important side of advertising that most people just don't think of, is that you retain in front of your existing clients better.
There's always people talk about like, why does Coca-Cola, why do they advertise?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows who they are. Why do they advertise? Well, they advertise for a reason. They don't advertise because it just happens to be something that they do.
They want to be top of mind.
They're a top of mind. And if you're not top of mind, people forget about you, no matter who you are.
Right.
In most cases. I mean, there are a few businesses here and there that don't need advertising.
Right. But
but
most people still benefit from at least some minimal amount of advertising.
you really need it, because really, at the end of the day, what are we all doing? We're all, we all have something that we're selling.
Right.
And if, the common denominator, it's the marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not out, if somebody is out marketing you, they're getting business away from you that you're not getting.
Right. So we've been talking a little bit about advertising. We spent a lot of time in display advertising because I know that's an area that you concentrate in a lot. And there's a lot of other places that we can advertise too. We see ads on YouTube all the time. And YouTube is really a pretty cost-effective place to advertise. Sometimes we can advertise there for almost pennies a click, so that can be pretty inexpensive. And it has great targeting capabilities as well. There's Google AdWords. Google AdWords tends to be more expensive advertising for the average business owner. We were talking the other day about business terms in New York City being as much as I think we said, what, $300 a click you were telling me the other day?
Well, real estate,
Some of the different things for
like
real estate.
office space in New York City can be like $25 to $75 a click.
Okay.
Personal injury attorney,
Yeah.
like if you're in the, it can be $250, $300 a click.
$300 a click. Some places really, really expensive. So depending on your profession, depending on the type of advertising you're doing, that can be pretty expensive. So we've also got Facebook advertising, and most people are familiar with that because we see the little ads on Facebook, either in the timeline or off to the side. So we see a lot of advertising here. Those of you that are on Facebook, and then we've got some other places that we usually don't think of as much. There's advertising on Instagram, which is also tied into Facebook because they're related. And then we have advertising on LinkedIn, which is more tailored towards businesses, and that tends to be fairly expensive advertising per click. So there's a lot of places that you can be advertising. But the most important thing, I think, is to really get your message down sound. And we talk a lot about this too, don't we, Ed? The fact that, if you don't really know who you're advertising to, and really have your message tightly defined and know who your consumer is, that's what helps bring your cost of advertising down. If you really know who your client is and customer, that really makes your advertising probably one of the most effective things that you can do, is have that nailed down.
Yeah, it's the strategy. I think that's, if you look at anybody who's really successful, at whatever level they are, it's like they have the right, that they've got the right message. They know who their audience is. They're going after a size market that they can handle.
Yeah.
That's really the key. I've mentioned this many times about how, when I was in the New York City real estate market, and, I was taught a formula, and,
Right.
I worked a 20 block radius from 66th Street to 86th Street, Fifth Avenue to Lexington Avenue. And, when I got out of college, that's what they taught me. I didn't know any better. So I just followed their program, and I just worked that 20 block radius. A lot of people said, well, why wouldn't you work like all of Manhattan? Well, the reason why is that if you stay in front of the same audience over and over and over, people get to know you. And if the bigger market we went after, the less business we did. The smaller the market we went after, the more business we did.
Right.
Because as an individual, salesperson or marketer, you can only handle so much business, right? So you want to try and, a lot of people think you need to go after this big market. And a lot of times it's really just, whatever that market is. It could be, a lot of businesses can just draw a circle right around where they, where their office is, 5-mile radius, and just go after all the businesses or all the consumers right in that market.
Right.
But let's say you're a different market, like let's say you're, like a commercial roofing contractor, that's going after, big roofs. You might need to cover, 50 towns because there aren't, so you have to figure out where your market is and who you're trying to reach.
Yeah. Or like where I live, New Hampshire is a fairly spread out state. We got a population of about 1.5 million people. So it's fairly spread out. I tend to have to market in other places, not just my local community. But if you're in New York City, you might find all the business you need on a block.
Well, we talked about Herb Chambers so many times up in.
We did. He's a great example.
He's got 60 car dealerships within 100 miles of Boston.
Yeah.
Now, if you compare that to, a good comparison to that strategy, Herb Chambers is he's targeted a local market. He's got 60 dealerships. You drive by. He's got the economy of scale with his marketing. But compare that to a guy like Barry Sternlicht from Starwood Hotels.
Okay.
Who's really high-end big hotels. Well, there aren't that many of those. Around the country, there might be 2,000 of those. Well, he might own 5% of those.
Right.
Which is that's 100 hotels.
Mm-hmm.
So his market has got to be, he's specialized in luxury, high-end, big. So his market is going to be national, but it's only within that same audience. So you see what I'm saying? It's the same strategy over and over.
Yeah. So you mentioned this once before. And so one thing that we were talking about one day, and I found this really fascinating. We think about where different companies started, right? Starbucks started out in Portland, Oregon, for the most part, or Seattle. Sorry, take that back.
Yeah.
Seattle. Home Depot started in Atlanta, but they started as a local business that then spread out. So a lot of times what happens with a big business, we think, oh my gosh, they're doing all this stuff. They're all over the place. Well, the truth is they at one point were maybe a smaller business and they started in a particular place. And what happened is over time, they went from one big geographic area to another geographic area that was large to another geographic area until they spread out across the country. So they really follow a local strategy, but they're
able to replicate it.
replicate it as they spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we lose sight of that a lot of times. We just go, well, other businesses are, advertising all over the place. Well, they have kind of a unique situation because they originally started in one place and then they just continue to advertise in their larger local markets.
Well, I think, Shopify, which is the largest e-commerce platform, was started by 3 guys someplace up in Canada.
Yeah.
And they started out, they were selling snowboard equipment.
Huh?
And they, one of the 3 guys had taken some classes in computer science and didn't like the e-commerce platforms that were available. So they built their own.
Right.
And they started out just selling locally, to people coming into the various ski resorts and things like that. How do you get your word out? They started locally and then they expanded. But, I think most businesses, they start out with some kind of local strategy. People, I think, when I talk local and say, hey, we're all into local, I think a lot of people think, well, gosh, you're just like a little nothing.
I know, they kind of do. It's funny.
They do, but you know what? There's so much. There's if you look at Home Depot, how much does a Home Depot do in the local market? How much business are they doing? And they're selling the product. That's not the labor over and above that.
Yeah. And then you go back and you look at somebody like a Herb Chambers, who, like we said, he owns 60 dealerships in New England within a 50-mile radius of Boston, roughly. And he's a multi-billionaire. So and we did a little study in our local group, our local Facebook group, about him, talking about his business practices and how he deals with things locally. He's quite a good example to look at.
If you look at Barry Sternlicht from Starwood, he's going after 2,000. He knows the market for 2,000 hotels.
Yeah.
And he has 100 of them, or maybe he's got 50 of them, or whatever it is. That's the same strategy as, maybe a local plumber who's cultivating a neighborhood of 2,000 owners.
Mm-hmm.
I think, a lot of times I think, if I was younger, knowing what I know now, I could probably start a landscape business and just cover within a 3-mile radius of where I live.
I know, right?
Just cut lawns. And if I captured, if I could capture 5% of that marketplace, I could probably make a pretty good 6-figure income.
Yeah.
Just by targeting all the homeowners and business owners in a 3-mile radius of where I live.
Yeah.
As long as I had the employees that could, if I had the labor to help me and I could run that business, you could probably run a really, really nice landscaping business or lawn cutting business or tree cutting business or gutter business or roofing business.
Yeah.
Right within that little corridor.
Yeah, when my wife first started out, she's a massage therapist and physical therapist in private practice, and when she first started her business, that's how I started in this and getting involved with SEO and everything. And we just really focused on Nashua. We focused on the city of Nashua, and she picks up clients from the surrounding area, but the vast number of her clients came from Nashua. Now, when she first started, she did a lot of the things that everybody else does, a lot of chair massage work, just getting people familiar with her work and, getting out there and everything. But I think the biggest stuff came from getting her Google My Business right and starting to run some ads in the local area, doing some video so that people saw her and got familiar with her. And she pretty much got, 80, 90% of her business just from getting those things right. And that she never really had to work hard to get new clients. That part really came easily once we got that down and correctly. So it means a lot to, local small businesses or businesses getting started to take the strategy, just really focusing in on a particular area, getting your SEO right. That takes a little while, obviously, to catch up. Usually somewhere around 6 months, probably, Ed, to get SEO.
Well, it can
maybe a little longer, sometimes quicker.
There's some programs, there are some ways that you can get ranked immediately, like video. You could be a brand new business and you could rank a video, pretty quickly,
right away,
a couple days.
Sure. Yep.
Very cool. Start getting that, and the thing about local marketing that's so amazing today, is that you've got local neighborhoods. Like I live in Wilton, Connecticut, and I live in a part of Wilton that's called Silvermine.
Okay.
So people that live in Silvermine know Silvermine, and it covers a little part of Wilton, just a little corner of Wilton, a little corner of Norwalk, and a little corner of New Canaan.
Okay.
It's a historic district, and in this historic district, there's like the Silvermine Art Guild. It's like an old like artsy community.
Sure.
It's got, you don't really see it when you're driving around, but there's, like Tom Wolfe, the writer, used to live here. And I think the guy who, one of the cartoonists, like the cartoonist that wrote Beetle Bailey, like he lived here,
Wow.
And it's got some history here.
Yeah.
And, you could target that geographic area. So you don't need to rank in Norwalk or New Canaan or Wilton.
Right.
You could just go after Silvermine. It's a different strategy. So you could target Silvermine when nobody else is thinking about, so all your keywords could be related to Silvermine. So you could cultivate that local neighborhood, and the internet gives you the capability.
Yeah.
They give you you can target these little neighborhoods.
Yeah.
If you look at like New York City, for example, I did an SEO campaign a number of years ago for a big real estate company that had a furnished office space business in 4 locations. And one was near Penn Station, one was near Grand Central, the other one was down in Union Square. And what we found was that we went after furnished office space near Grand Central, furnished office space near Penn Station, furnished office space near Union Square. But then we found even deeper things. Furnished office space near Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Nobody's going after that keyword phrase.
No.
But there are people that they want a furnished office space. Let's say you're a sports agent in California.
Yep.
And you come into New York and you want to be near Madison Square Garden. Well, you might search for a furnished office near Madison Square Garden.
Mhm.
There's no competition for that keyword phrase. So if you know how to write a blog post or create a little video and optimize it for furnished offices near Madison Square Garden, you have no competition. So you can rank on Google like almost immediately for that. Well, what else is in that little geographic area? What other, could be, maybe you need to be near, like a medical office near, Mount Sinai West,
Right.
or, medical offices near Mass General.
Right.
These are like wide open opportunities that people have a specific interest. They need to be near something.
Right.
So you can use different landmarks and things like that. That's one of the things that's so amazing and so overlooked in
Yeah,
the
it's much more of the strategy. And so narrowing down things instead of being very general, like I would need such and such in Massachusetts, right? Or I need such and such in
like furnished office space in Boston.
Yeah, right.
Nobody's going to search for furnished office space in Boston.
No,
Nobody
No.
wants, because
it's too
you want to be near something.
Yeah.
Either near where you live or near some transportation or near something.
right.
It's too big of a market. So there's so many hyper local opportunities, and people
Don't miss those.
they don't focus on that. So it's a pretty cool part of the internet.
It is a pretty cool part of the internet, and a much more important one than previously.
Well, look at the way we live now.
Yeah.
With COVID, people aren't really going anywhere.
No.
So I will bet you that 80%, 90% of everything you do, almost 100%. Look at where we can't travel anywhere.
No.
So where are you going? You're going within 3 miles of your house.
If that.
For every 2 miles.
Yeah, and we're having a lot more stuff shipped in to home now. So we're looking for local stores that can do that. And so we're searching for those things hyper local that way.
Yeah, there was I saw something on the news. The guy who's the president of Shopify, the e-commerce store, they did a big survey, and they found that 60% of e-commerce buyers would prefer to buy something from one of their local vendors who had an e-commerce presence, where they could do business, they could go online, they could buy something from a local vendor and either have it shipped to them or they could go pick it up.
Oh, wow.
Which is, so, that's showing you that it's wide open for local retailers, and a lot of local retailers are not making it because they don't know these opportunities, and the opportunities are right there.
They're right there. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine today, Eddie. He came over and we're having a conversation out in my driveway. And he said, there's a huge restaurant. I want to say he said Jimmy's. I think it's a big Greek restaurant in Baltimore or something like that. And the place has been open for like generations. It's a generational family, and it's been open forever. And they said how badly they've been hit by this, and he's doing everything. They're doing everything they possibly can to stay open. And but he says, I'm not sure I can reopen after this. I mean, I've got room. I can still continue to have people in the restaurant. We got plenty of space and all of that. And we're in a situation now. I think restaurants is one of the places that local business wise, I think I'm most concerned about, because they've got that proximity factor of everybody coming in to eat dinner and all that going on. And there's just so many different things that you can do here to change your business almost on a dime and advertise more for takeout, and just so many creative things that you can pull off around that to really pivot where you are fairly quickly.
Well, you bring up a really cool point, because you as a restaurant, you think about, you have your retail you have your location, and people come into your restaurant and they leave your restaurant.
Yep.
Okay. And you treat them well when they come into. Some of them, are good. They're great. They're great hosts. You walk in the door. Oh, come on in. It's great to have you. Come on, sit over here. Grab a, let me, while you're waiting, grab a drink at the bar.
Yep.
Well, people aren't going in like they were, but you have that clientele. So
Yeah.
why haven't you captured your clientele who has come to your restaurant, who maybe comes 3, 4, 5 times a year to the same restaurant?
Good point.
I'm not getting an email from them. I'm not getting, they're not treating me like a client, a
Right.
customer, a
Right.
valued customer. And there are certain restaurants that I like to go to.
Yeah.
I don't know what they've got. I don't know that they've got delivery. I don't know. They're not treating me like a customer. They're just, oh, when you're ready to come into the restaurant, come on in.
Come on in. That's a great point. I think that's one of the things that's missing from so many businesses is they don't have a follow-up system. They can't communicate with their clients by email. They can't communicate with their clients by text. And, just about anything we get today, we get by email and text.
Well,
yeah.
that's back to the display ads.
Yeah.
Because let's say that my favorite restaurant, which is Wilton, it's called Bianco Rosa. They call it the wine for short.
Mhm.
Love going there. It's my favorite restaurant to go in, but I never hear from them.
Yeah.
Now, we're running some display ads. I would see them over and over. So I would see them, and maybe if they offered a special, like a delivery special, have the Bianco Rosa wine bar experience at your home.
That'd be awesome.
And on Monday nights, we have a 50% off special on our calamari, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so I see that, and, I go to their website, I'm being retargeted. Well,
Right.
Maybe what they do on their website is say, you know what, if you give us your email, we're going to send you our specials, and we're going to have our clam pasta night. The next night is our veal night. Our third night is, buy 2, get 1 free.
Yeah.
And now you're cultivating your clientele,
A relationship with people too.
and over and over. And if you implement a strategy like that, that I'm going to tell my friends, oh, like Bianco Rosa. I love to tell people about Bianco Rosa because I love the people over there, but they're not reaching out to me, and they should be.
Yeah.
Because I buy from them. I'm going to tell you, I would buy from them probably once a month.
I know.
By
We
the
just
time
don't think of it. We just don't think of it. Like if we got a text right now from them, I'd probably go get some calamari, and I don't even know who they are.
You know what? Sunday night when the wine store is closed, could you get a bottle of wine from them? Could you get a delivery of them? I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know, but I can't see why it's not. There's just so many things I think, especially restaurateurs, are missing out on in advertising. Certainly display ads, certainly keeping better connection with their existing clients.
Have to do that now, because if you don't do it, you're not going to make it.
And it's funny. I've seen so many try to do it. They do the old fishbowl thing where they collect business cards and try to find ways to connect. But even the ones that have done that, I've never had them. I've very rarely had them reconnect with me.
Right.
From that, it's like they do that, and that was their methodology or reason for doing that, and they gave away something to make that happen, and then they just ended it there. They didn't do anything to further that. So I think restaurants in particular, especially with COVID and the things that, everything boosting back up again, they especially can benefit from good social marketing, making sure their Facebook pages look lived in, and have continuous flow of content, and then boosting some posts locally through Facebook. And then, like you said, a display advertising campaign, which would be very inexpensive for them to do, to just stay front of mind and just say, hey, we got this special or this going on, or, whatever.
There's one of the things about display advertising is that there's this thing called, and I posted it today, and it just sort of popped in my head today that, with display ads, there's what's called the ad blindness. And when you see the same over and over and over, you don't see it anymore. Just like sort of like you've seen it, you just go over it, and it's subliminally, it's like it's almost like a worthless ad.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
But I also started to think today that there's probably website blindness. So if you were to go, you look at my Bianco Rosa client, if every time I go to their website, it's the same message, it's the same look, you know, after a while, it's like, it doesn't do anything for me. It's not capturing, it's not engaging. Whereas if let's say every week they change their message or they put a couple pictures on there. So every time I go to the website, they've got something different going on. So they're cultivating their clientele and they're offering something different every week. So now you're like, hey, what's Bianca Rosa got going on this week?
Right.
You know, so now you avoid that. It's called website blindness. So that's, I think, something that any website owner, any business that's got a website could, you know, really build your website so that you can change things on your website, different offers, different messages, so that everything is new and fresh and a different perspective every time your audience comes on your website.
Wow, I really missed out on this. I just looked over at the comments, and of course, Dr. V has been leaving all kinds of comments while he's been away, and I've ignored you. I'm sorry, buddy. Hey, but he's made some really good ones. So I'm just gonna try to see. Yeah, silver mine. That's a gold mine, he says. It really is. And he was saying IGTV and Instagram haven't been playing nice this week. And there he is. He just appeared. I'm sorry. I completely missed looking at these. I mean, you got some great comments over here.
Hey,
I know you said your local Italian restaurant.
Yep.
Oh, I can't bring these up either.
oh, that's too bad. Maybe I can. Why would I bring up my own comments?
Yeah, you bring up your own comments, but I like
your own comments.
Your local Italian restaurant that opened.
Where is that one? I gotta go look for it. Oh, here it is.
Including $10 bottles of wine.
Yeah, and these are, and by the way, these are very valuable bottles of wine. Hey, look, it's me.
Yeah. How about that? You know,
I've been listening the whole time. So
yeah, we had a lot of restaurants do stuff like this. It was just really out of the norm, kind of unusual things. I mean, I can't think of specific things.
But you have to understand that they opened in March, like the third week in March.
I know. Can you imagine?
A brand new restaurant, third week in March. They're still in business. They have two other locations in San Diego, but the family lives here in Coronado. So
I can imagine somebody who just opened a restaurant, and then you get smacked with COVID, and you can't keep operating.
Oh, there was a second one too who opened with COVID thing, and then we lost one of our Primavera, another Italian restaurant. We lost it back, I think, in June because they just couldn't keep up with everything.
And we've been hearing a lot about restaurants that have been around a long period of time closing up, and the fact that they just don't know how to deal with this. And frankly, none of us really know how to deal with this. Yeah. We just have to put on our thinking caps and figure it out.
They were also a little bit of a dinosaur. So I think that was part of the problem, not open to anything social or, their idea of marketing was to put an ad in the local paper.
I think that's one of the challenges though today is that a lot of us, we look at business a lot of people look at business from old eyes, and business has changed a lot. If you plug into some of the things that we talked about today, it's so much easier for clients in your local area, especially. You'll be shocked and say, why in the world didn't they do this sooner? But
well, I think people get very busy in their own little world of, for example, a chef will be creating their own specialties, and they just don't think of marketing half the time.
No.
Somebody was telling me that insurance agents, though, they think of marketing all the time, and they have their numbers and everything else.
Sure, like nonstop. And I think the other thing too is, you just kind of get caught up in your own little world a little bit. But a lot of the things that we talked about aren't that expensive to do. Mm-mm. You can get started doing some simple ads for $5-10 a day or less.
Well, even taking a social post and transforming that into an ad as opposed to boosting the post is a good idea.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Was there anything you talked about that, or did we miss that you heard?
It was very interesting. I love Ed's stories about these narrow ranges, like between, what was it, 6th and Lexington or something?
Yeah. I mean, New York City.
That's my whole background, and
amazing.
That I have so many stories about. One of the things, like I worked from 66th Street to 86th Street, 5th to left. Yeah, and I worked. There were 350 owners. I sent a newsletter or something out in the mail to that audience. And this is like, top of the top real estate
Yeah.
people. And a great story that really sort of tells the value of the marketing and retargeting. It's sort of but there was a family that owned a building up on 67th Street between 5th and Madison. Primo. I mean, this is like one of the best locations in the world.
Sure.
And they owned this beautiful limestone mansion. I mean, it was amazing, right? And I never knew who these people were, but they happened to be in my territory. And I called them every 2 months, and I never got past the receptionist.
Yeah.
But I sent them like a newsletter every single month with, recent sales or what came on the market. And one day, after 7 years of contacting them, I got a call from the receptionist, and she said, "Come on up. The guys want to talk to you."
Yeah.
I go up to the building. I walk into this beautiful place. It's got the brass, handle, railings, and it's got big iron doors. And you walk in, and it's got the black and white marble foyer, high ceilings, beautiful trim. And this was originally a residential, and they converted it. This was like their family office, and there was a conference room in the front. So the receptionist said, "Go on into the conference room. The guys will be in." And I walked in, and I sat there for a few minutes, and these guys came in who worked for the family, and they walked in, and they had a stack of every single newsletter that I had sent them for 7 years.
Oh my God, that's great.
And they sat down and they said, "Listen, we've been getting your stuff for 7 years.
Wow.
We know that you're the guy.
Yeah.
We're not talking to any other brokers.
Yeah.
Tell us what this property is worth.
Yeah.
Come back to us in a couple days and tell us what we should put this on the market for." And I got the business.
Wait, was this the property that was the mansion itself?
Yeah.
Oh.
This was a family that owned at one time, pre-1900, they owned all the land from 38th Street up to 60th Street along Park Avenue.
Wow.
And they still to this day own some of the land under some of the buildings. And they're like 99-year leases.
Yeah, I was wondering how 99-year leases work. It just seems
There
so
you
bizarre. At year 100, do you get to take over the building, or they have to move their building?
They're like renewal
Somebody else
option.
picks up the lease or renews.
You could, if you don't renew the option, you can take control of the building.
Wow.
So this is like multi generational wealth that's been created.
No kidding. Yeah.
And but that's who. But the point is that I stayed in front of one market, and over and over and over and over, and that's really the formula.
Yeah.
If you look at any business that's successful, you target the market and you stay in front of them over and over. Today, you don't have to make cold calls or send out. I mean, my fingers used to bleed from folding the newsletters, and then I used to feel licking the envelopes and the stamps. I mean, that's how we used to do it.
I know people's fingertips would hurt from dialing for dollars, making cold
Mine
calls.
did.
Yeah.
Today, you know what? You have a blog, today, if I knew what I know today and I could go back 20 years.
Right?
You can get that landscaping business.
But it's the same strategy wherever you go.
Yeah.
Become the local expert.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
And I think omnipresence, you get a degree of omnipresence from having ads as well as SEO and social media posts. They see you everywhere.
Yeah. So
the other side too, one thing that we don't really think of a lot of times, and I know you and I would think of it because it was the type of business that we're in, but advertising can make us so much more efficient. If you're a salesperson or somebody who's constantly out beating the street, talking to people like nonstop, having that kind of localized advertising keeps you from wasting a lot of gas, blowing a lot of fuel, driving all over the place. It's a great use of your time too. So, it really helps with that.
So speaking of wasting a lot of time and fuel and stuff, do you think that both of you, that print advertising is still a good thing to look at?
It's a
big sigh. A big sigh is what I was looking for.
It can. I think it can be, depending. Like I can tell you that if I went back to the New York real estate market, right, and I went back to my territory, which I've been away from for years, I could probably start the same strategy again and send things out in the mail every single month. And today would be cheaper and easier to do.
It would be cheaper and easier to do because it's all merged and everything else.
Be super targeted. You get those discounts by bundling zip codes together. So.
Yeah.
You know, all it is, it's not that you need the high quality. It's that it's the consistency
Right.
of sticking in front of the same people over and over. You can go over to like Vistaprint.
Yeah.
And you get, like, I tell you what, I'm going to show you. Here's a card that I made. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Yeah.
I took this out. I went to the World of Concrete last year.
World of Concrete?
In Vegas,
It's a thing.
I have a whole bunch of guys that are concrete guys. And I went to the World of Concrete, and instead of using a business card to hand out when I went to booth, I created this from Vistaprint. And it's a 3x5 card. And on the back, it's got my website and it's got all my information. And what I did was I had something different, and I went, and I think I still have a whole bunch of them I've never used. Look at this. I got a whole
Sorry, you go back.
I got a whole
You got a great giveaway there because it's so different. It's a different size than
It is different.
like they would a business card.
It cost me $89, I think, for like 500.
That's a bargain, as they say in New
You
England.
throw a business card away too, and that is just bigger. It's an illogical size.
This could have been a mail. You could mail
A mailer,
Yeah.
And I think if you just did something like this and you sent it out every single month, let's say you've got a territory of, let's say, 500 owners, or call it 1,000 owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much it would cost you. It'd cost you, let's say $100 a month to make the cards.
Yeah.
$40 per mailing. So for $500 a month, you're sending out to the same 1,000 people over and over and over.
Yeah.
I think that would work amazing.
Especially if you varied it up. I look a lot at the value packs locally to see who's still advertising in those, because that's one of the first forms of print advertising that you typically see. You see it monthly because it comes to your door in a little blue envelope, and you open up and see, especially us, we look to see who's advertising in it. And I see consistently the same people advertising in it. Yep. And I know how I respond to it. Some of the local restaurants, I'll use the coupons, I'll go see them. But I do think that if they went to some form of digital advertising, not only would it be more effective for them and probably less expensive, but they'd also have that back and forth connectivity, because they'd probably have an email or text list of their clients that they don't have now. Yeah. And so they're losing out on that whole portion of things that they just don't have.
Digital could be a supplement too, because for me, I did a lot of Alpac. I did a lot of Alpac in DC. I did a lot of Money Mailer, and I did these tabloids. What was it called? The Merchandiser, where you wrote an advertorial, if you will. Yeah. Actually, those advertorial type things, they pulled very well,
and they still do well online.
Yeah,
because,
well, if you have a message for, Gene Schwartz here.
Schwartz, not as opposed to General Schwarzkopf.
Yeah.
He was, a breakthrough advertising. Gene Schwartz. He was a direct mail, copywriter. People aren't using it today. Everybody switched over to digital, but
I don't know if it's entirely
everybody,
because getting pieces of mail nowadays, because they're far fewer of them, actually gets my attention and other members of our family.
Me too. I know there's been a few things that I've opened up recently for different things. I looked at a mailer that came out from Good Sam's, because of the RV. It was an insurance ad that came in a mailer. Normally I wouldn't give a mailer thing the time of day, but because it was from them, something I said, well, I'll at least read it and see if it's something I'd be interested in. But they did something very logical with insurance that most of us wouldn't think about. Having an RV, you're off the road like 3, 4, 5, maybe almost 6 months of the year in New England. And the fact that you might be paying more for your insurance and you've got it off the road for that period of time. And hey, we're RV people, so we understand your insurance needs. They had a really good message that catered to that as well. Mm-hmm. And so, I think a good piece of mail, well placed to the right audience.
Yeah. I think it's a consistency.
It is
consistency. But it's everything, digital or.
I'm in the market right now for a new landscape company, and if you think about a card like this, It's what's it going to cost you? 40, 50 cents a month to send it to somebody per card. You know, if you send it out over a 10-year period, right? That's what's that, $50?
Yeah.
You know, if you get a client that is, you know, you're paying $40 a lawn cut, $30 a lawn cut.
Boy, you live in a discount area.
Well, it's higher now, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how much.
I know.
But still, acquisition, you know, if you're doing, and every month you're changing up your card a little bit, and you're not really trying to sell, it's almost like, hey, you know, we're landscapers in the area. We specialize in the silver mine area.
Yeah. And here's what to look out on your lawn to see if it's healthy. Little tips.
We put up Christmas lights. We do gutters. We do fall cleanup. Yeah. You know, and you're switching up your message.
Well, and you really do need to switch up your message, because I suffered in Valpak and Money Mailer from coupon fatigue. I had to switch it up every 6 months or so because people were so used to seeing it that it wasn't anything different. And so their eyes had ignored it like a giant scotoma.
Yeah.
Right.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of
coupon fatigue. People knew what I meant.
They look the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a really interesting idea. You know, I have a workers' compensation insurance client, and I just redid their website, and the message on the website is, "Are you sure you're covered with the new policy and rates for 2021?"
Good point.
And so I changed the whole thing for 2021. Now that might work for let's say I change that every single month.
Right.
And it said, you know, something like, okay, it's February. Have you done anything about your workers' comp rates for 2021? Yeah. And then we get into March. Have you done anything? It's March now. Have you done any? You know, so every single month I could change that just slightly and just change the month.
Yeah, it's March. It's March Madness. Are you suffering from work comp madness?
Yeah.
You know, so you're, but you know, it makes sense that, you know, if you're a local business or any kind of business, if you're changing your website just a little bit every single month that somebody comes to your website, it's like a new message. It's something new. It's something fresh. It's something that will maybe trigger something in somebody's mind. Maybe you know, we've talked about those, you know, those offer stacks and bundling. You know, maybe you create a bundle. It's a combination of workers' comp, business liability, and fleet insurance, you know, and that's called, you know, and you name it.
Or and then put Keyman in there too, if you wanted to.
I'm sure people are thinking about their business continuation insurance a lot more these days than they were.
Oh, yeah. How am I going to survive? Let alone thrive.
That's the
thing. I think these are all the little things that you need to do to keep out there and keep fresh in front of people. Because if you say that, you know, if you say the same thing over and over, you know, it just becomes white noise after a while.
Yeah. And then a lot of the little things when we reference them, you know, like I jokingly talked about business continuation, but just the fact of, you know, we go through times where things are going good, running smoothly, and then you run into something like this. And it makes you think about, you know, just like the people who didn't need flood insurance before.
Yeah, you get flooded, they're out of luck. It reminds me too of the idea that people are not as proactive as you think they would be or should be to stay in business. I think they need a reminder all the time about what the essentials are. And I like the fact that you and I, John, both are doing social media posting consistently. Like we're doing posts for small businesses twice a day, 7 days a week. I'm telling you, I've looked at the stats of a couple of our clients, and it's just shot up in terms of, I mean, there's some that are shares, but for the most part, the engagement and the comments, the likes, the loves, and everything else like that have been spectacular. And it really makes the page for any business look like it's alive instead of on its last breath.
Yeah. How many times a day are you posting?
Twice a day for anything under 10,000 fans. Yeah.
And now, what if you posted it to 3? It
goes up to 10,000 fans or so. Then we start adding another, like a third. And then, I mean, I've learned this from Rachel Miller. I've learned this from my wife, who's got, God, what is it now? I want to say 50,000 fans, or is it 48?
Right.
Can't remember.
That's
But yeah, but she posts far more regularly. And in fact, she posts to stories now, and the stories get her greater engagement even than the social media posts. And when she ever posts a video, you get thousands of views.
Yeah.
So, but they're big fans, and she nurtures those relationships. It's really important. If you can nurture the relationships that you have achieved through advertising, it's amazing. And we actually farmed out to somebody some of our targeted ads to get more email subscribers, and that's worked really well because the same audience who are already fans, just duplicating and getting more engagement.
Right.
I tell you what, that's one of the things that I love about this breakthrough advertising is that Gene Schwartz is talking about how many different ways that you can, he's like, it's unlimited how many perspectives and fresh new ideas you can come up with by combining things from the same topic. Once you have your message, you can reposition that over and over, and the internet, really gives you the platform to do that. Whereas, back years ago when he was, doing direct mail, you didn't have that kind of opportunity. You'd create one piece and it would go out in the mail. With the internet, we can do that over and over.
Right. We've gone for about an hour and 18 minutes. So do you want to have a summary here? Because I got to go downstairs.
We can
check on the family.
We can summarize. You got any final thoughts, Ed?
No, I just want to thank you guys for having me.
Great stories. Great stories.
It's great to be here, and I like to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a ton going through this book, Breakthrough Advertising. It's really been a game changer for me because I've always trying to figure out how do I become a better copywriter.
Right.
And I've never actually been a copywriter. I don't even know how to copywrite.
Yeah.
But this is the first book that I've ever read that actually shows me the why behind it and how to implement it and all the different angles so that I can actually, I may not be that good at it, but I can at least get by a little bit.
You can be brilliant at basics is what I always tell people. You don't have to be the total guru expert, but if you master the basics of putting a sentence together with a noun, a verb, and a few other things, and speak in your natural language. My favorite emails are from people who are very conversational and tell you little bits and pieces about their personal life. And those I actually open up because I wonder what's she or he going to say next.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, when I started, when John and I started Local Marketing Strategies, I didn't know what to say. And so what I did was I said, when I got this book, because I got the book from Brian Kurtz, who has the rights to the book.
Oh, wow.
Brian Kurtz actually lives, I've never met him, but he lives about 10 minutes from me.
So
and
funny.
He knew Gene Schwartz personally. He worked with Gene Schwartz because he worked with a company called Boardroom.
Yeah.
Boardroom was a direct mail, like newsletter marketing company.
I used to get stuff from Boardroom, and my dad too. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back. It was a guy named Marty Edelstein started Boardroom years ago.
Oh yeah, I recognize that.
I think it was started like back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And Brian Kurtz went to work for Marty Edelstein in 1980 when I guess he got out of college. And back then they were using Gene Schwartz to write their copy.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the opportunity to work with Gene Schwartz, and somebody that I know connected me with Brian Kurtz, and we were going to get together, and he was actually going to have me speak at one of his masterminds about search engine optimization. Yeah. It never happened, and so he had
not yet.
Well, what he did was he finally said, I apologize for all the cancels. I'll send you a free copy. And this is a $125 book.
Yeah.
You're lucky at 125. I found copies that were over 300. That's why I didn't buy it.
Yeah. So what I did was the book sat here. I read a couple chapters and it was like not an easy book to read. So I finally said, you know what? The only way that I'm going to get through this book, and it's like, I don't care if people don't like what I have to say. I'm going to start reading through this book and I'm going to post my notes every single day in the group.
That's great.
And I just kept posting and posting and posting and posting and posting. And then people started to get in a little bit. I mean, with the group still isn't very big. It's, we're up to, John, what are we up to? Almost 300.
Yeah.
But I'm getting feedback from people like
it's a good size. That's a good intimate size because there's a lot of lurkers in any group. So
yeah.
Yeah, we like it to be big. It's a good intimate size.
It's really forced me to read through this book, and there are pages in this book that you could spend a day trying to understand what he's talking about.
Really dig into
and how to apply it. So
So breakthrough advertising, John. Anything that you want to say before we round?
I was just going to say, hopefully we've come across some things that those of you that are small business owners can use, and some strategies that you can put in place over advertising. And if there's any way that either Dr. V or myself or Ed can help you, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to help with that stuff.
Yep, we are open to engaging with you and answering your questions, which we do every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Mountain, and noon Hawaiian Standard Time.
I don't know how you do that.
Well, there's people in Oahu. We do have viewers in Oahu. And
Thank you.
I might as well tell them what time it is. They can watch us over lunch while we're thinking of drinking. So, all right, we'll be back here next week. Thank you so much for showing up, for your comments. Eric Louvier, I did see your comments there, and I'm sorry I wasn't immediately on to answer your question, or I had a bandwidth problem here at home. Okay, we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.